Hey everybody, it is, what is the date today? January 20th. It is Saturday, about 1:36 p.m. Okay, this is a little review on my Nissan Leaf. I've had this, it's a 2013 Nissan Leaf S model. It's the stripped down, cheap as you can get, bare bones, basic Nissan Leaf. It's gray. It doesn't have GPS. It doesn't have cruise control. It just has a CD player, radio, and that's about it. It has a 24 kilowatt battery. It doesn't have a quick charger. It just has a level 2. It came with a level 2 and a level 1. It doesn't have a backup camera. It's got the smallest battery, no quick charger. So I've had this vehicle, I think 4+ years, 4 or 5 years, maybe longer. When I bought the vehicle, it had about 40, maybe around 40,000 miles maybe, and now it has over 95,707. So I'm pushing 100,000 miles. When I first bought the Leaf, the most range it ever said was 94, I think. 94 was the largest range. Now, at 40,000 miles, now the largest range I get is like maybe 70, 69, 70. On a good day, when it's warm out and I haven't run the air conditioner and, you know, drive like a grandma, it gets, I think we're estimated about, where am I at? 4.2 miles, I guess, per kilowatt, something like that. And I've gotten up to 4.3, I think, something like that. But anyway, so I get about 50, 60 miles before I charge it. I have ran it to turtle mode once, and I have ran out completely one time because I was running out and it was real low, like tiny amount, and I plugged it in for like a minute or two, and then one of my guys was like, hey, can you run me to the store? It's only like a mile or two down the street. And we got there and came back, and we almost made it back. We had like another half mile or quarter mile to go, and it completely went dead. So we had to tow it back to the shop, plug it in with my little truck. But other than that, I've never ran out. There's usually places around town that you can plug in. I use PlugShare, PowerPoint, and then I was an electrician for about 5 years. So basically what I did was I just installed dryer plugs everywhere. So I have dryer plugs at everyone's house that I know outside. I've got about 3 of them at my shop, so I can plug in like 3 or 4 different places. Then I also have adapters so you can plug into different dryer plugs, and so it made it very convenient. And I live in a condo, and a PowerPoint is right across the street from my house. My mom lives like 2 or 3 miles away from me. She has 2 or 3 plugs already set up. So if I stop at her house on the way home from work, I can plug in there. If I don't have time to stop, I just plug in at the shop. And if I'm really stretched, I can walk about, I don't know, it's not even 1/10 of a mile. There's a charge point right across the street of the town hall. So it's very convenient for me to have this. The only thing I do not have is a plug directly at my condo. There's no outside outlets. I could run a cord out the window, but I know they would frown on that, even though legally they cannot keep you from charging. But I live on the 2nd story, and I don't want anybody to trip over the cord, and I don't want to create any issues. Eventually, I would love for them to have, if they had a way to plug in here, I wouldn't really have to plug in anywhere else. I could just plug in overnight, charge it up to 80% or whatever, 100, and then in the morning unplug and go about my business and go 60 miles. And then I usually just go to the shop so I can plug in there as well. So this is the only place I go that doesn't really have a convenient plug. What would I change? What would I change about this vehicle? I actually really like this vehicle. My mom has a Tesla. I drive it a lot. I have a Ford F-250. I have a Nissan Pathfinder. I mean a Nissan Frontier. So I really prefer, actually, over everything, driving this car. One, it's very cheap. I bought it for $8,500, and I haven't put any money into it. I put maybe like a little 12-volt battery in it. I put tires on it, two tires every 2 or 3 years. Of course, it's front-wheel drive, so it wears out the front tires quicker, but they're cheap. You can get them on Amazon, like cheap V-rated tires for like $55 a piece, and the back tires last forever. So if you don't rotate them, the back tires will last you like, I mean, 50,000-60,000 miles. But if you rotate them, you can probably get 10 or 15,000 miles out of a cheap set of tires, like $100, $120. My buddy owns a tire shop, so I just take them down there and they swap them out and balance them. But if I were to change anything about this vehicle, I would get a quick charger so I could fast charge at Nissan, because their charger charges up to 200 miles an hour. I would get a backup camera, of course a bigger battery, backup camera, and a quick charger. Other than that, I really wouldn't change anything, and I would get Nismo mode, so I would be a little quicker. It's actually pretty quick now. I usually when I take off at the light, I usually pull out ahead of everybody, and I have no problem getting my lane if I get like a pole position. But it brakes good, it handles good, it doesn't body roll. It's just the range. I had a couple situations where I had a little more, wish I had more range, and maybe a little peppier. But the quick charging and the backup camera, because a lot of times when I'm looking back, I can't see. If I had a backup camera, and a lot of the newer ones, they come with backup cameras, and the problem with this one is if I change out the radio and put a backup camera in it, all the buttons, I think, on the steering wheel, the volume and the voice control and the source button will be obsolete. So that's one thing holding me back. And also too, I don't like the backup cameras they install like on trucks and stuff, because they just clip them onto your license plate. It's like kind of cheesy. I'd really want one that's built in to the hatch. I could probably do something, if you find a wrecked Leaf, you could probably get the camera off the hatch, and you could probably get the radio, but I don't know if you need a software or something. I don't know if you could if it's plug and play, if you could just pull the radio out, because the DIN mount, it should fit any other upgraded radio. I really don't need the GPS, because most of them are generic anyway. I bought one, and then my mom ended up taking it, so she drives it. This is my second Leaf. She has about 84,000 on hers, and she's never had a problem with hers. Sometimes the key fob battery goes bad. Only thing that you really should know about these cars, if the key fob goes bad, you can actually, I found this online, you can take this here and you can push it on the start button, and you can even if this gets wet, or like I had one before that I ruined it somehow, and I wasn't able to start the Nissan Leaf. Luckily I was home, but I just took this Nissan symbol and I pushed it against the power button, and it worked for like years. I even had someone use my car for like 6 months or more, and they used it like that, and I finally broke down and got 2 new key fobs, and I haven't had a problem ever since. Also too, the door handles, they have that little button you push to lock and unlock the doors. When you get close with your key fob, that whole panel will come out, and that little piece that you push, that little button will fall out. So what I did instead of replacing the whole door handle, I bought a new one off Amazon, popped that little button out and put it back in, and I taped the door handle and zip tied it. So you want to, if you have a Nissan Leaf and the door handle starts to get loose and it starts to separate, you either want to glue that thing together or tape something around it so that piece doesn't separate. Because when that separates and that button falls out, and you lose it, if you get that button, make sure you keep that button and put it back in and tape it or zip tie it or put it somewhere safe. Because if not, you have to take the whole door panel off, the whole door panel apart. The door handle itself isn't that much. It's like 50 bucks or 40 bucks, whatever. It's not super expensive, but I almost had to take the entire door apart. But I ended up taking that little piece out and putting it back in from the new one, and it was a lot easier. I did it in like 20 minutes instead of like 4 hours or whatever what it took. And then I didn't have to disassemble the door and reassemble it. But yeah, I love this vehicle. Back when they made them, batteries were super expensive. So, I mean, a 24 kilowatt battery back in 2012, 13 was like astronomical. So these cars sold for like over 40,000 back then. And now they haven't really upgraded the battery as much as I'd like. I think they have some that go like 160 or plus 150 miles, maybe a little more, maybe 200, I don't know. But they've never really reached the 250 mark. I think a really good range for an electric vehicle, if you don't really want to have anything additional, I think 250 is the minimum. Because my mom has a Tesla that's 230 and it's not quite there. It's not quite enough. I mean, you can make it work, but I think I would not buy, especially if you're spending a lot of money over 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000 on up. If you're buying just a little, beater like a under $10,000 car and you just want to bop around town, is like this is the perfect second car. But it would be really hard to maintain on this. This has to be your second car, unless you don't go anywhere, don't do anything, and you're just bopping back and forth, and you get a rental car for vacations, or you don't drive over 50 miles a day. The only way you could get away with that is if you had a charging station at work. So if you drove like over 20 or 30 miles to work, you could charge, and then by the time you get done working, you could basically be fully charged or 80%. So you could start your trip home. That would cover anything like detours or, anything that weird happens. You might have to go out of your way, because I did Lyft for a while, and it, like, I could maybe take people to work maybe once or twice or 3 times, and then on the 4th one, it was like you're looking for a charger. And then if they want to go to the airport or something like that, you're just out of luck. You'd have to stop and charge, and then if you don't have a quick charger, it takes forever. It takes like 2 or 3 hours from 10 or 15%, or about, I'd say like 10% to 80%. You're talking like, hours. You're taking, that's a long haul. Yeah. So if you guys ever buy a Nissan Leaf, it'd be really good, especially an older one with, I would say the older anything with a 24 kilowatt battery or 30 kilowatt battery, this would be a second car. Honestly, most people would use it as a second car, unless you're in a good situation like me where everything is within a couple miles, or your first car. If you want to buy something for your teenager and they're just back and forth to school, gym practice, volleyball, basketball, whatever, they're just doing like maybe, driving like 20 miles a day, 30 miles a day, they can charge in between, they have time to charge. But if you're pushing 50 or 60 miles a day, that's pushing it. That's unless you have charging options. So anyway, I think that's about it. I wouldn't really change anything about it. I like how it handles. I like it how it rides. I like the quickness of it, the simplicity of it. Super simple. I mean, if you want a good, cheap first electric car, especially as your second car, I definitely recommend the Nissan Leaf. And it just has the same simple key fob, Got your alarm button, this little pop button that pops your charger, that little thing that pops up to open your charge port. And then you have another one down here, lock and unlock. And then of course it has a button on each, on the driver's door and the passenger door. You can click that button once, open the door, click it twice, it opens all the doors. It has the same button on the hatchback. So it's probably the simplest electric car, one of the most efficient electric cars, least expensive electric cars, and most reliable electric cars. So it's a really good way to start driving an electric car without breaking the bank, because most of them now I see you can get a decent Nissan Leaf under 10,000, unless you want the newer style. If you get something that's old school, I think they changed the model around 17 maybe. I think the 18s and 19s are the new style. But if you get anything older, you can get something really decent for around 10 grand. You know, if you want something super nice, like my uncle bought a new 17. I think he paid like 15, but he went through like Carvana or something, so he paid a premium. And another thing too, when you're going to look at these, as long as you're not wrecked and nothing's twisted, as long as the battery bars are up and you charge it up and it goes up to like 80 or 90 miles and it's showing about 4 miles per kilowatt, you're usually pretty good. And then have someone follow you, drive the car around, as long as it's tracking straight, there's not a bunch of dents and dings, it's never been an accident, you're pretty good. Because it's really hard to wear these. I had the same original brake pads as factory. I've never changed the brake pads. It has like 95,000 miles, almost 100,000 miles with the same factory set of brake pads. Few sets of tires, they're super cheap. Windshield wiper blades, you go through those. Windshield washer fluid, easy to clean. I really don't like leather too much. Plastic leather, it's easier to clean. The cloth seats, I got black in here, gray in the other one. I prefer the darker interior. Gray on the outside, silver, it's okay. I mean, it doesn't show dirt too bad. Easy to clean, easy to maintain. You got to replace the 12-volt battery every 4 years or so. If you get the optimal battery or a lithium or battery, I heard people go up to 10 years. And the key fob battery is like I think 2025 maybe battery, so just keep those around. And I recommend get two of these key fobs. When I bought this car, I only had one, so when my key fob went down, it was a pain because I couldn't do anything except for you have to use the key to unlock the door and then you have to push this on the ignition to start the car, so that was a pain. So I would definitely try to get 2 key fobs with your car. If not, I would ask them to pay for one from a dealership and get one, but I definitely would get 2 key fobs. You always want to have at least 2 key fobs in case you lose one, break one gets wet, one doesn't work, because it's a pain in the tail to have to do that. I mean, it'll still work, it'll still get you where you're going, and then these are expensive too. If you don't know how to program them, you can get them on Amazon for like 50 bucks or 60 bucks, but they charge you like 100, 150 bucks to program these things. So it's best to just go ahead and get it out of the way when you first get it, and then you'll have it. Because when you don't have a key fob and you have to like basically do all these extra steps to drive around, it is a pain. So definitely want to keep at least two key fobs. All right, that's all I got. Sorry for the run on, but I've been driving this thing for years and I really prefer it over almost anything I drive. It's super efficient. Yeah, I mean, this is like the cheapest thing that you can drive pretty much besides a Honda scooter. So, all right, if you like this video, crush the like button. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. Hopefully I will try to find out how to finance my Cybertruck. But when you go from an $8,000 vehicle to a $100,000 vehicle, kind of having second thoughts. Is it really worth it? I kind of like to drive things that are paid for. Have an awesome day.